Trigger warning, this podcast contains mature themes and discussions of cults, manipulation, and trauma. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking, where we expose the dark side of control, coercion, and the human stories behind them. I'm Anonymous Andrew, a podcaster and investigator.
And I'm Melody, a cult survivor and advocate for awareness and healing.
Welcome back to another episode of Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking podcast. And my name is Anonymous Andrew, and with me tonight is my co-host Melody. And Melody, tell us who we have tonight.
Tonight, Andrew, we are joined by Sharon, who spent 4 years in a group called Training in Power, a group once known as The Instruction. While it presents itself as a spiritual and meditation program, many former members describe it as a manipulative and controlling, fostering dependency on the leader. Sharon found us through the Cult Escape and Healing group, and she is here to share her experience and her journey out of the group with us. Sharon, welcome to Cultimatum.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, welcome. And thanks for joining the Facebook group. That's a great place to start. Okay.
Where would you like to start your story?
Well, normally people ask how I got involved. So for myself, it's been about almost 2 years since I've been out. So I guess about 6 years ago when COVID hit, I was approached by a friend of a friend who is a well-known psychologist here in Calgary. She's been in practice for about over 30 years. And my friend was having just a social gathering, and she's a counselor as well. And I'm a counselor, actually. And she just said she was offering a training and that she thought I would be a good fit for the training that she was offering. She told me a bit about it, that it was just about increasing your personal power and self-improvement kind of stuff. And just stuff that I was already kind of familiar with in terms of my own interest in spirituality and my spiritual practices that I've done over the years. So it just appealed to me, and I trusted her. And also, she was kind of a colleague already for me in my circle. I'd taken a course with her already, and she also was on the Women in Psychology group. She was the chair of that for a few years that I was a part of as well. So yeah, I'm a counselor, and I thought that she was legit. So that's why I took her course, and that's how I got involved.
And what was that first meeting like? Did they try to recruit you right away, or was that a slow process?
She had approached me the year before when my friend had a birthday party. She just kind of told me about this group she was part of, and she thought, maybe I would be interested. It might be something I might want to check out, but she wasn't teaching anything at that point. And, I didn't pursue it any further. And she approached me again about a year later when she was actually teaching a course.
Okay, just so I'm clear, you knew this person for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Okay, and I want to be clear. Is she the leader?
No.
Okay. So that's where I think that some folks.
Do you know where, maybe we're getting ahead, but do you know where along the timeline that she joined this organization?
So when she was recruiting me, she was a level 6 student in the cult. So she probably had been there, I would guess it takes about 6 to 8 years to get to level 6.
Okay.
At that point, because they didn't do anything online until COVID. Everything was in person. So it took a little bit longer to get up to that level, but you had to have completed level 6 to become a teacher. And I was her very first student.
Of course. But okay, so 6 to 8 years is no small, she was in there for a while. Okay.
So did it seem benign and innocent at first? What was your first meeting like?
Well, it was kind of interesting because, like I said, COVID had just hit. So I'd actually attended her first class, I think, in person, like they had 4 classes for the level 1. I attended the first one in person, and then the second one I got sick. and I couldn't attend. And she got really mad at me for missing that. But anyways, she had another one that she started up a month later, and I joined her for that one. And I think I attended that one in person as well for the first two. And then we had to switch over to online because COVID was full blown at that point. And
Okay.
then from there on, it was all online
Was
since
okay.
I was in it.
Okay. So I mean, I don't know too much about your story yet, but I'm kind of curious. Do you think the fact that they went from in person to online, were you able to figure it out as being a cult faster than maybe the in person when they were doing it in person? Do you think that changed some of their tactics? How did that affect their group in general?
Um, I don't know how it might have impacted other people who were doing things in person, but I honestly think, yeah, I probably would have been. It would have been harder for me to leave had I done everything in person because I would have formed closer relationships with people having done everything in person. I mean, I did form a very close relationship with my healing partner. We became best friends, even though it was an online format. So online still was effective, but I do think that also how I exited because it was online was also very fortunate for me as well. Because if we had done what was the level 6 conference, which is where I got to, which was something that you had to attend every year once you got to level 6 and above. And I attended that. It was like a 7-day sort of thing where the level sixes were getting trained. And it was a conference with everybody from level 6 and above. And it was all online. And previously had been in person. And yeah, so it made it really easy for me to exit that when I decided to at the
Right.
conference.
No, this is an interesting one because it kind of overlaps that in person versus the online because we know that fully online cults are a thing and they can be just as effective as the in person one. But I was more curious thinking that if this cult started in person, was it difficult for them to transition to the online type of tactics? Because they do use different tactics when we're in person versus online. So that's kind of, we've never had one where it overlaps like that being because they had to adjust some of their tactics, I'm sure, in order to switch to
Yeah,
that online format.
I guess so. I mean, I'm not really sure how that looks or looked because for me it was mostly entirely done that way. It's interesting because I just recently connected with an ex-member. So I'm picking his brain. He
Oh,
did
of
it
the
in
same group.
person and the same group. Yeah, I
Oh,
just found somebody. So it's been kind of
wow.
interesting.
Okay, well, we really need let's get into the story. So the last I heard, you met her at a birthday party, and then a year goes by. She wasn't teaching then, but a year later, she was teaching, and that's when she
Yes.
approached you and said, "I think you would find something. You get something out of this." Let's take it from there.
So yeah, so when I attended the level 1 training, it was really just teaching you about a lot of metaphysics, like auras and things like that, and meditation and that sort of thing. And for me, none of it was kind of unusual or odd because I already kind of had my own spiritual
Had a
practice
bit,
and
you already
everything.
had a foundation for that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so after I was done, there wasn't really high expectations for you to keep up with what some of the suggestions that they were making, which was to attend what were called focus meetings, which was like a group meeting that they had every month. They suggested you go, but you didn't have to. And they also wanted you to do what were called healings and have a healing partner from your level to practice. In this case, it was clearing your aura. And again, they didn't have requirements. So I lost interest for a year. But that lady who recruited me, her partner, who was higher up in the cult, approached me and said, "Hey, it's been a year. Why don't you? I'm running a level 2 training. I'd love for you to come and we'll do what's a level 1 refresher to kind of get you caught up. And and then we'll also do what are called clearings, which they would do in between each level. And in this case, from level 1, we had to do clearings that were basically to clear your chakras and also to clear the blocks that you had from your childhood, that kind of thing. So we did that. And then I went into level 2 with her. And that's when I started to get more serious about things. And level 2 was, they called it Tibetan mastery, but basically really what it was learning more about your chakras, the higher chakras that you had. So, and we also did, our healings were about past life stuff. So we would clear your past life stuff. When we had, went on past level 2, you had to do your healings. Now they required you to do it. I think it was 2 a month, and you had to attend, I think you couldn't miss 2 of your focus meetings over the course of the 8 months till you went on to your next level if you wanted to do that. And that's where I met a really good friend of mine. And out of the 4 of us that did the training, only the 2 of us went ahead. And we committed to each other to do these healings that were required for the 8 months. And we just really supported each other through until we got to level 3, and we decided to do level 3 together. And these healings would take a long time. Like doing the past life things, they'd take about half an hour each person to do. So they were just, really intense. But we committed to each other, and we said, we're going to do this. So we managed to get to level 3 together. And level 3 was more of a shamanism type approach. So at that point, we were basically seeing ourselves as these spiritual warriors that were on this path. And basically, that's when I really started to commit more into the cult at that point.
At this point, about how many people were in attendance, or would you say were in the organization?
I didn't know at that point because you didn't really get to meet all of those people until you got to the level 6 conference. And so anybody under level 6, these people kind of came and went, but you're fully committed by level 6. And when I got to the level 6 conference, there was about 150 people in attendance.
Okay.
Yeah. So it really didn't, for me, it didn't really start to get kind of weird until I got to level 4. And when you agreed to go into level 4, you did what was called the teacher track training. So what that meant was you were going to do level 4, 5, and 6 within a fairly condensed period. So for me, it was every couple of months I'd do a new level. And they had a ton of requirements for you to do it. But that was the idea when you got to level 6, that you wanted to become a teacher. And level 4 was when they introduced what were called our mentors. So we got assigned a mentor to work with, and they were supposed to help us get to the teacher training and support us. And I remember we had an, unusual ritual that we had to do in level 4 to meet our mentors. And we were told we were part of this special lineage, and this mentor was part of our lineage. And basically, the other thing that was kind of weird about level 4 was that they made you take what was called a vow of silence. So you weren't allowed anymore to share any of this information with anybody. So prior to that, they discouraged you from doing it, sharing the teachings and the healings and all of those things that you learned from people outside of the cult. They thought they were just telling you, you know what, this is very, they wouldn't understand it. Sorry?
Proprietary? Like,
in a sense, yeah.
Like, this is ours. Don't share it with the world.
Yeah. And they also said, you know what, like they wouldn't understand. They also, you don't want to harm them with this knowledge either, right? Because
harm them.
The other thing that happened between each level, so after level 1, what would end up happening is they would say that your vibrational frequency would increase to the level of a Tibetan monk who had been practicing for 21 years. And then when you got and finished level 2, your vibrational frequency increased to that of a shaman who'd been practicing for 40 years. And then when you finished level 3, your vibrational frequency increased to that of a shaman who'd been practicing for 70 years.
Wait.
You just...
So you go to this thing for a year or two, and at the end of that year, you know as much as a Tibetan monk that sits in Himalayas for 21 years and does all that. Seriously,
Really?
This is what they're telling you?
That's what they're telling you.
Oh, God. Oh. Okay.
That's the fast track.
I've seen documentaries, and there's a gentleman that I know of. I don't know him personally, and his name is Andy, and he runs an organization called Headspace. And he spent many years as a monk in the Himalayas. And now he runs this big Headspace thing, which is an app on your phone, and he turned it into a profit. But I know these people go up into the mountains for a decade, and they starve and they isolate and they, do all this. So they're telling you that what they're teaching you in a year, these guys went all the way up a mountain to do for 10 years.
Well, it's worse than that, because they tell you after 4 weeks of your training, then because of what they do with you, the teacher passes on the vibrational frequency to you.
Okay.
Believe me, that was one of my first red flags about the group. I was just like, really?
Okay.
That's a bit extreme.
So I would have bailed at the first one, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I just love these. Go ahead.
So I was talking about the level 4 training, and how it got weird too was in level 5, one of the things that we needed to be doing in our meditations, we were supposed to go to what was called the lower astral plane. And, I've heard of that before. That didn't surprise me. But what you were supposed to do on the lower astral plane was do battle. So what you would do you'd be basically sending out these what were called, you'd be striking, and what that meant was a pulse of energy from your vibrational frequency to attack these things called things and blobs. And basically you would be sending these lost souls back onto the karmic wheel. So you were saving souls by doing this battle on the lower astral plane. And I always thought, well, that's kind of bizarre, you know? And they wanted you to be doing this striking. And they taught us striking in level 3. And basically it was to protect your energy. And they wanted you to be doing it all the time, because the idea was, because your frequency has gotten to such a high level, now you're under attack from outside forces that want to steal your energy from you. So you have to constantly protect this energy, striking.
So kind of like good and evil in the Bible, and these would be like the demons of the spirit world in like a religious cult.
Yeah. And also you were protecting yourself from negative energy of people outside of the cult who were, energy vampires or parasites who, would be also trying to steal your energy from you and lowering your frequency.
A couple of years ago, on my other podcast, I had a woman come on from Canada, and maybe after we finish recording, I'll tell you who she is. Maybe you know her. And she does a lot of this stuff, but that's her private practice. So she's not a part of a cult or part of an organization. She does soul cleansing. She does real estate cleansing. She does past life regression stuff. And I've had her on, and she's done my stuff, and it was extremely fascinating and interesting. And I could talk all about how I felt after it was all done. So this, I don't think any of this stuff is woo woo. Like some people call it woo woo stuff, like like it's weird out there stuff. I've actually had it done, and I also read tarot cards. It's been a while, but I'm in the occult. Like if you saw over there, my whole thing, whatever. So I'm okay with everything that you're telling me up to this point, where the teachings I have no problem with. I want to hear more of where
things went off the rails for me.
Thank you.
So when I went to the level 6 conference, we were basically, it was like an LGAT, a large group awareness training. So you were busy from morning, afternoon to evening, being bombarded with new skills, new tools, meditations, and all that kind of stuff. And we had to keep reports. So we would submit a report every day about what we were learning and experiencing. And we had to submit reports all the way through our training. So it was a nice monitoring system for them. But on the 4th day, which halfway through the conference in the evening, the cult leader would always speak. And at this point, what ended up happening was us as the level 6s, we had done a meditation the night before where they opened up a portal for us, and these beings came through to introduce themselves to us. And that evening when we meditated, we were to kind of commune with these beings that had come through the portal and tell us who we really were. And so the next evening, we were to share what we had seen and experienced and to share some of whatever we had written in our reports. And then what ended up happening after that was everybody from the level 6 the year prior and above stood up and basically introduced themselves by their alien name, what planet they were from, and what rank they had. And I sat there listening to this for about an hour and a half, and this was like already 11 o'clock at night. And I knew this was going to go on for a lot longer because there was 150 people there. And I just said, this is a cult. In that moment, I knew it. I was like, it just, some of the things that people were saying to me were absolutely ridiculous. Like one lady said she was in love with a giant squid. I'm like, oh God, no.
The thing in the ocean squid?
I don't know. It was giant. I don't know if you've seen Galaxy Quest, maybe one of those.
Wow. Yeah, that's when it would. I think that's when it would have went off the rails for me too.
Well, and the sad part is I'm like, I logged off immediately. Like I went off Zoom and I went to bed. And apparently my phone blew up from that evening. My cult friends were calling me and texting me, and the recruiter and my mentor and even the cult leader herself contacted me. Basically, and I told my husband about all of that. And they called him at work the next day because they couldn't get a hold of me, asking if I was coming back. And he said, no, we talked about it and she won't be coming back.
You just kind of dropped a little white elephant there.
Uh-huh.
Your husband, when did you get married?
We've been together 23 years.
So at what point did you join this organization in your marriage?
So like I said, I joined 6 years ago.
Okay.
So we'd been married for quite some time.
Okay.
Already.
And he didn't join?
No.
He had nothing to do with this whatsoever? Okay.
No, he had no interest, and
so
not that I tried either. Because
yeah, no.
I'm the spiritual woo-woo one, and he's
knew,
not.
You knew that he wasn't going to come along. Yeah.
Spirituality and him do not go together.
Okay. So you log off Zoom, and because I'm just retracing her steps, you log off Zoom because this woman is in love with a giant squid. This is the last thing you hear, I'm guessing, right? Is that, do you go to your husband and say, this woman's in love with a giant squid in this crazy group that I just joined, which I now think is a cult, and they all called you the next day and tried to get you to come back, and that's when your husband intervened and said she's not coming back? Is that really?
Well, I didn't respond to them.
Right.
I knew because it was a cult, I needed to get as far away from these people as possible, and I didn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. So I just didn't respond to anything. And the creepy thing that happened too, and I can't know this for sure, but this happened in February and it was cold. And somebody, I woke up in the morning and I made myself some coffee and the dogs started barking out the window. And I had a look and there was somebody parked in front of my house with the vehicle running. And I thought, oh, okay, whatever, maybe somebody's, I live in a neighborhood. They're just there to see someone. And the dogs wouldn't stop barking. Like for an hour, that person sat outside there. And I remember getting scared thinking, oh, this is probably somebody from the cult, actually. Because when I had been at the conference, they assigned you somebody who was kind of your caretaker, who was in the same city as you. And so I assumed that that's who it was.
Caretaker would be another word for you're somebody looking over your shoulder. Say again?
Yeah. So we weren't supposed to leave the house during this training because they said you would be in an altered state. So you'd have a helper that could come and do things for you if you needed somebody to run some errands for you, or they could take you for a walk, but you weren't allowed to leave your house. So you got assigned somebody for that. But my husband was there helping, he was doing all that stuff for me.
Yeah, he's your helper.
Yeah. So he was there just cooking and doing whatever.
But they can't keep an eye on you if they're not, so they want their helper there, not. So this is where the cult thing comes in, is where they need to be in control or control you or watch you or.
Right.
So
Yeah.
did you ever get
Well, and
confirmation if that was somebody from the cult or not?
no, I don't know for sure, like I said. But what's interesting is they called my husband at work, and that's what he said to them. And then that car took off.
Mm,
Oh,
So I
okay.
reached
no
out to a friend of
coincidence.
mine at the time, phoned her, and said, I think there's somebody outside. And we talked the whole time on the phone, so she supported me through that.
And to
That
confirm that was a friend not in the cult. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. More Cultimatum is coming up.
Yeah, I still had friends outside of the cult.
Just close your eyes for a second, or not, but just try to take yourself back to that moment when you looked out the window. The dogs are barking. You see this car. It's there for over up to an hour ish. You said, "Do you think possibly that was an intimidation factor? Like they sent somebody to intimidate you by just sitting there?"
I'm not sure if it was for
Okay.
intimidation or if
See, I
they
don't know
really
what.
wanted me, if they really, because like I said, I had a helper that was supposed to come and take care of me.
Why didn't they get out
So
of
it
the
was,
car and come knock on the door then and say, "Are you okay?" So, I'm
well,
not. I don't want to
they
put words
didn't.
in your mouth. I don't want to tell your story, but it just sounds to me like all of a sudden they get a word that you're not coming back, and cars show up at your house.
Mhm.
It's like any other organization,
Right.
anything from the mafia all the way to other
Mhm.
religious cults, especially some of the ones that start with an S out, and they follow you. They will show up at your house.
Harassment. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they didn't do that again after that,
Okay.
not after they got the message from my
So this
husband.
was your big red flag. What were some of the smaller red flags you saw along the way? And then also, well, I'll let you answer that first, but I do have another question after that. I'll let you answer that one first.
Well, like I was just saying to Andrew, that one of the red flags was that exponential increase in your vibrational frequency that seemed kind of ridiculous to me. But the other thing that was a red flag was these focus meetings we used to have, and they were basically group counseling or group confessionals. So you'd have to go every month, and there'd be a facilitator and some helpers, and you'd work with these people and tell them, sort of, they give you a focus for the month to work on, and you talk about how you'd worked on it, how it went for you, and basically what's going on in your life. And then they would clear you, supposedly, to keep your energy at a high vibration. But I remember they would always kind of dig into your trauma. And I'm a counselor. And I thought to myself, what are these people doing digging into these people's traumas? They're not professionals, right? They don't have
Mm,
training. And not, that doesn't seem right to me. That doesn't seem ethical to me.
right. And as
And
somebody
so
who's educated in that field, you kind of knew what people should or shouldn't be doing in that aspect.
that's right. Yeah. I mean, for me, I kind of allowed myself to look past it because I thought, well, maybe this is just spiritually what they're trying to do, and it's not. There's something else to this that I'm not aware of or don't have the training for yet.
Mel, I have a question, but you had a follow-up question. Do you want to ask yours first?
I did. And I am going to say I can completely understand that because when you're in a cult, you do justify the unjustifiable. When you start seeing things that you're questioning, you gaslight yourself a little bit and be like, oh, well, I just must be
Right.
misinterpreting this, or I don't have all the facts, or whatever it is, because you don't want to face that fact at first. But the other part of my other question was, I was wondering if you had either experienced or witnessed or heard about any of the manipulative or controlling behaviors that fostered dependency on the leader. That's something I think I read about online and doing a little bit of research about the group. And I just wondered if you had any personal knowledge of any of that.
In terms of fostering dependency on her, I mean, she wasn't really someone that I mean, they had a lot of other trainers and teachers that we worked with, and She used to be a teacher, but then, of course, the cult grew and other people were able to train through the lower levels. I think she was still doing it at the higher levels. But the thing was, she would kind of pop in and out of your training sometimes, or the focus meetings we'd have, she'd just kind of pop in and she'd demonstrate her powers. She was supposed to have these incredible psychic powers, and that she would just give you a little taste of what she could do. They would always praise her in all of our trainings, and just how she came up with this incredible system and how she had these incredible powers that she'd cultivated in herself. So in terms of fostering dependency, I think, yes, she was kind of put on a pedestal for all of us to admire, and she was kind of the ultimate person that had all this knowledge. But you also had all of this deference and all of this respect for anybody that was in a higher level than you. The higher you went in levels,
Right.
the more spiritually mature you were.
Right.
The
Supposedly.
the woman that you met at that birthday party, and that was a friend of yours and wasn't teaching, and then a year later got you to come to one of the meetings. Are you still in touch with her today, or did you?
No, I cut things off pretty
You
quick
got
with her.
okay, okay.
And I can we assume, or can the audience assume that she's still part of the group?
I would imagine, because her partner was a level. Well, when I left, her partner was a level 19. There were
Wow.
22 levels.
Okay.
22 levels. Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of like Scientology. Similar.
Yeah.
Oh,
The levels.
Although,
Yeah.
that's a naughty word on this podcast.
is it?
Well,
Well,
we're just a little
I think they
intimidated
do
by
it
them.
better
We
than
won't
our
lie.
group. I think they saved their alien reveal for much later than what ours did.
Yes. Yes, they wait for that level
Science
22 or something.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know of who you talk about. Okay, so
Scientology has some alien beliefs too, but they don't reveal it as part of their teaching until you're way, way deep into it.
and you know
Yeah.
that how?
I've seen it on documentaries of people that have
Okay.
been part of it.
Okay, no comment. Okay.
Wow, we're
Okay,
leaving Andrew
so-
speechless. That's quite unusual.
Yeah. Well, there's certain. Never mind. Okay, I'm going to ask you the question that I normally ask, but it doesn't apply in this because it's usually the question is, where are you in your faith today? This is not a faith-based, I almost said occult, faith-based cult, but it was more of a, I'll just say it, woo-woo cult. So, which I don't have a problem with because I've dabbled in it myself. So if anything, I'm interested in it. I just don't like when they bring you all together and they make you try to all be on the same vibe. It's something you can practice yourself in your own meditation, in your own self. Like I have two altars in my house where I can sit quietly and burn incense and listen to a Buddhist chant, and I can really go off into La La Land and meditate. So, but I don't need a group. I don't need level 1 through 22 to get there.
Right. Well,
Anyway.
Andrew, it's very similar to what we say about like religious cults where, you can believe in some of the teachings, but not like the Bible. Like we say with the Bible, you can believe in some of the themes of the Bible, but not the every word of the Bible. But you don't need to go to an organized religion or a group
Correct.
or a place or a building. It's the same idea, just with a different kind of spirituality, meditation type belief.
Correct. You can call yourself a Jew or a Catholic or anything and just never go to temple or never go to church or never go to a brick and mortar place. You can pray in your own style. Anyway, back to Sharon. Where are you spiritually today? What do you practice? What do you practice? Do you believe? What do you believe? And with all of that, do you have a faith? Which I think is a relevant question because if you believe in everything God and tarot readings and God and past life regressions kind of like don't, in my understanding, don't really work well together. Am I coming across with a question?
Well, if you're asking about my spirituality, I had a fairly strong base prior to joining the cult. So I had spent many, many years participating in Indigenous communities, doing ceremonies with a very good friend of mine who is Indigenous. And
Are
I
you
had
indigenous?
no,
Okay, because
no, I'm not.
you look, you look, you look Native American, North American Indian.
Well, thanks, but no,
Okay.
no, I'm Irish and Polish. No,
No, I would not have guessed that. Okay.
I met her in my social work training. I'm a social
Okay.
worker. And basically, yeah, were in one of my courses. I was introduced to Indigenous practices, and she was in my class. And I approached the elder that had run a healing circle at the time, and he said to her, "Well, why don't you, meet Sharon and tell her about your spirituality." And so her and I became friends, and she started running a women's circle for healing. And then she started taking me to sweat lodges. And I had for about 10 years, it took I'd say about 8 years of attending these regularly for me to start actually having real spiritual experiences. And so that was kind of it's one of my spiritual practices. The other is Buddhism. So I studied that since my 20s, and I've been meditating for many years.
I'm just curious, and sometimes I may be off track here, but some of what you're talking about, especially when you use the word indigenous, especially in like South America, do any of the people that you know practice with any kind of mind altering substances like ayahuasca or
Not here in Canada.
peyote?
So
Okay.
no, my friend, she's Cree. So, we've mostly I've gone to some of the reserves here and done sweat lodge ceremonies there. There's no other than tobacco. That's about all the
Okay.
substances that are used
Okay.
for the
Yeah, I
sweat
don't
lodge.
know if it's up. I know like if you go down to South America and Central America, you're going to find a lot of
I
that.
don't.
But and
Yeah.
it's coming up into the states. There's certain states that are allowing that practice to help with PTSD and things. And so I don't know how far north it goes into Canada. So
I think there are some people that are using it, but I personally will not use that
okay, yeah,
because
no.
I respect the Indigenous people and their beliefs here.
Yeah, I wouldn't either because
So
I already have. So
so
that's a long
there we
story.
go. So, so then my understanding is then basically you still hold on to some of the spiritual beliefs, but basically kind of more what you believed before you were part of the group, and you've kind of let go of
Yeah.
some of the more bizarre things that they taught and went back to your roots, kind of.
Well, and the thing about this cult, though, like I said, they did a part that was on shamanism, and that really resonated with me. And they were using the Castaneda books. I don't know if you're familiar with those. And you were supposed to read these Castaneda books, and basically, it's about becoming a sorcerer and working with a medicine man and all of that. And so that really, to me, because I thought, well, this is really quite an extension to what I already have experience with. And I thought it was kind of something that would increase my knowledge further. But and then I found out the Castaneda books were actually fictions. But at the time, I believed that this was
Right.
real.
Well, I just Googled something, or actually ChatGPT something, and this is why I asked that question. So, shamanism is a broad term that refers to spiritual practices around many cultures in the world, and psychedelics are used in many, but not all, of shamanistic traditions. And then they have a breakdown. So that's kind of why I asked that. When you said the Shah, a lot of these practices that where they use ayahuasca is there's a whole ceremony and the Shah has to perform the ceremony.
Yeah. So in the Castaneda books, Carlos apprentices with I think it was a Yakiwa medicine man and he does take peyote for some of his spiritual
Okay.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We do have to begin to wrap up. So did you want to answer, do you have a faith of religion? And if you do, does it have anything to do with this topic or not? And you don't have to answer that.
No, I don't practice any religion, and nor was I raised with religion.
Good. Okay.
Mm.
All right. Thank you for answering it. Melody, you're up.
Okay. And my final question, and since Sharon is an avid listener, she knows what my final question is, but I'm going to ask it anyway. My final question is, Sharon, if somebody is listening that is part of a similar group or questioning a group that they may be part of, or it may be just any cult, maybe not necessarily similar, what would be your words of advice to them if they're starting to have doubts or question things?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a somatic counselor. So what that means is I do body mind stuff. And one of the places that I find my greatest wisdom is in my body. So the more that you can be embodied and listen to your body and your intuition, the less likely you are to be hoodwinked or, to go counter to what you believe is true. So even though I was a somatic therapist and I got involved in all of this, there was always still a part of myself that stayed online. Even while I was in the cult, I was still seeing a somatic counselor that I was working with because I was also developing symptoms in my body that were directly related to what was happening in my nervous system with the cult indoctrination. So I was having lots of anxiety,
Anxiety. I was
lots
just going to
of
say.
I was having, dissociation. I was having what we call survival energy coursing through my body. And I knew that was related to trauma. And I didn't know why it was firing, why it was lit up. And I went
Mm.
and sought help from a somatic counselor who was helping me work through it, but it wasn't going away while I was still in the cult. And so that
Has it gone away
it
since you
ties in
left?
very well.
It does.
It stayed
Yeah.
with me afterwards. I've had to spend a couple of years working on the
You're still
complex
working on
PTSD
that
that I
then.
got from being there. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's
But
that's
again,
excellent
my
advice, though.
body
I
told
love
me.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say to our audience, Sharon's a perfect example of the fact that anybody can get sucked into a cult. I mean, she is a counselor herself, and she got pulled into this thinking that looked benign on the outside. In the beginning, she was sucked in by things that resonated with her, and then was ignoring some of those red flags as they were coming along. So yeah, I appreciate that answer and that advice. That's really a unique answer, but I love it. I love that. We love when we get new ideas and answers for that question, because you get a lot of the same, but that's definitely one we haven't heard before, to listen to your body, which I love that.
There is we'll just wrap it up with this. And I've said this before, and I don't know if it was on this podcast or one of my other, but we have something called a second brain, right? It's the gut, it's our intestines. And I believe fully that gut. So when they say I have a gut feeling, that's just an old expression. It's true. It's a real feeling that your body. So you got your fight, flight, or fight, flight, or freeze, right? And if you walk into a room, if you walk into a situation, if you're driving down the street or whatever, and you have a physical reaction to something, and you feel your abdomen go through something, that's that's that second brain, that radar that was built into us to tell you to get out.
Yeah, your sixth sense. Your sixth sense, like run.
Right. And and of course there's exceptions to the rule where we got people who, like first responders, who will turn around and run into danger, and so there's always different things. But anyway, Sharon, what an interesting story, because it's a little different, and sorry you went through it.
Yeah.
And you've been out, you said 6 years now?
2.
Oh no, just it's going on 2 years in February.
Okay, 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us and our audience. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you for coming on the show.
And for the audience, and we'll repeat this in the outro, is that come say hi to Sharon in the group, because she's part of the your group. Are you in the Cultimatum group too, Sharon?
I think I might be.
Okay.
I might be.
Well, we'll get you in that group, but the Cultimatum podcast group. But she's in Melody's group as well. So if you want to chat with her, ask her any questions, you can stop by there and say hello and chat with her there. Right?
Yes. Thank you, Sharon.
Sure.
Thank you so much for stopping by and telling your story.
My pleasure. I hope it helps.
Okay. Oh, it will. It'll help somebody. Thank you.
I agree. And once again, we want to thank Sharon so much for coming on the show and sharing her story with us. Well, that was a different one for us, wasn't it, Andrew?
It certainly was. And I would almost say that I got to be careful how I say this. I almost was comfortably happy listening to that story. While Sharon she did go through PTSD and she's still deconstructing.
Yes.
But I like we talked about briefly a moment ago, there wasn't pedophilia, there wasn't sexual abuse, there wasn't beatings, there wasn't, some of the typical stuff you hear in cults, and I'm glad to hear.
Yes.
But on the same token, Sharon did go through what she went through for 6 years, and she's still, and blah, blah, blah. So
no, absolutely. And I hear what you're saying. And I guess it's very possible that at the higher levels of this group, there's more trauma, more manipulation, more of all of that stuff that we didn't get to hear about. Because luckily, Sharon left before it got to that point. Yes, she was just like, she started seeing those red flags, and she did. I mean, she was ignoring her gut at first, but eventually she was like, my gut's telling me I gotta bail.
And it was the squid.
Yes, the giant squid that did it for her.
The giant
squid.
What?
I have never heard of someone, though, jumping out of a cult so quick. I mean, it's like that was like her breaking point, and she didn't even experience any chemo. She was never physically in, mentally out. She just, once she was mentally out, she was like, I'm out.
Yep, she went physically and mentally into completely
Pomo.
out, completely in pomo and whatever. We might even have to make up a new word for her. So
yeah. So it was definitely a unique story, and we want to thank Sharon for reaching out to us and offering to come on and share her story. And as always, we also want to thank all of you for tuning into Cultimatum. We do appreciate your support and our mission to expose the truth and highlight the voices of these survivors.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to follow, share, and keep listening to all of our latest episodes.
And you can also follow Cultimatum on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube for more content and updates.
Don't forget to join our Facebook group, the Cultimatum Podcast Group on Facebook, where we dive deeper into these important topics.
And if you are a cult survivor and you're looking for any additional support, we do recommend joining the Cult Escape and Healing Group on Facebook.
If you are interested in more of my work, head over to the Anonymous Andrew Podcaststudios.com. Yes, it's a long www, but once you get there, you'll see all the podcasts that we do, and you can listen to them there. There's blogs and blah, blah, blah. And just go check everything out there. And coming soon, there's a new weekend rant concept coming out. So if you want to hear something different, I'll have them. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll have already. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah,
by the time you hear this, you already have heard it. So
yeah, because we're about 6 weeks out right now. So
yeah.
And if you are if you have a story related to cults or human trafficking that you would like to share on the show, please email us at cultimatumpodcast@gmail.com. Do remember that you can always remain anonymous or use a fake name.
If you want to support the show, and I know that you are hearing commercials and sponsors on our show, but believe us that they don't pay a lot. So we still need your help. So in the show notes is their buy us a cup of coffee link. And if you could do that, that would be much appreciated.
And as always, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, you are not alone.
The views, opinions, and personal experiences shared by guests on this podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts or producers. Cultimatum, the Cult and Human Trafficking Podcast, its hosts, producers, and affiliate entities, including Anonymous Andrew Podcast Studios, make no representation or warranties regarding the accuracy or reliability of any statements made by guests or third parties. Any references to specific individuals, groups, or organizations are for informational and educational purposes only. Their inclusion does not imply endorsement, opposition, or any formal position by Cultimatum or its affiliates. This podcast does not seek to label, accuse, or defame any religion, movement, or organization, and expressly disclaims all liability for guest statements or listener interpretations. Cultimatum is intended solely to promote discussion, awareness, and educational surrounding cult dynamics, coercion, and human behavior. Listener discretion is advised.